Tonight on the South Today, the government announces a big funding boost is in store for the revamp of a Christchurch attraction. Towns and cities across the South are welcoming in their new mayors, but some results may be too close to call. And the Dunedin Arts Festival kicks off tonight with one performance focusing on an iconic Dunedin author. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Hannah Wilkins. A big funding boost is in store for the multi-million-dollar redevelopment of Canterbury Museum. Finance Associate Minister Megan Woods announced today a $25 million one-off grant, hoping to secure the building's future.
Canterbury Museum is getting a seismic boost from the government. An ambitious $205 million project to redevelop the museum at its Rolleston Avenue site will see it closed to the public for up to 5 years. The museum is receiving a $25 million grant for base isolation and other seismic strengthening.
Canterbury Museum is not only important for us as a region, it's truly part of our national heritage.
The museum hosts more than 2.3 million objects, valued at more than $1 billion. Staff are currently undertaking the mammoth task of moving those exhibits to a secure off-site warehouse complex by April next year, allowing demolition to begin.
As a Cantabrian, I look forward with anticipation to seeing the museum brought up to the modern, world-class standard it deserves as the South Island's most popular tourist destination.
Canterbury Museum plans to open a pop-up museum in the central city to ensure the public still have access to some of the popular exhibits. The redeveloped museum is scheduled to reopen for business in 2028. In Christchurch, the South Today.
The Dunedin George Street one-way revamp is now in question as new councillors come into power. Mayor-elect Jules Raddick and his Team Dunedin ticket campaigned for a review of the project leading up to the elections. Some of those in favour of the review may feel less inclined if changing the project midway, though, comes with a hefty price. Incumbent councillor Marie Lafiso says a review will send a negative message to the public who campaigned for the one-way approach. Raddick says any decision will require a formal resolution by council, which won't come until at least early November. The dust has barely settled on the 2022 local body elections, with some results still too close to call. Newcomers and returning mayors across the South are now putting the campaigning behind them to look at what's ahead.
Some familiar faces, some surprise upsets, and a couple of photo finishes. Towns and cities across the South Island are welcoming in their mayors, new and old. In Queenstown Lakes District, one-term councillor Glenn Lewis takes the place of outgoing mayor Jim Bolt. Lewis says there's a challenging 3 years ahead.
So the big ones is the three reforms that local government's facing. So it's 3 waters, the national planning changes, and obviously the local government, the review of local government.
In Invercargill, Nobby Clark unseated New Zealand's longest-standing mayor, Sir Tim Shadbolt, who had the job for almost 3 decades. Gary Kirshner is back for a 4th term in Waitaki, but despite a landslide victory, he says it's been far from easy.
And that's one of the things that I've been hearing around the country, is that this has just been a very unusual election.
Clutha Mayor Brian Cadogan clinched his 5th consecutive term with a healthy majority, receiving the good news on his birthday, but says the 3 waters policy will cause issues. Meanwhile, his brother Tim Cadogan had an easier race, remaining Central Otago's mayor after a campaign which saw him run uncontested.
For democracy and for the whole process, I'm not sure it's a really good thing that the top job isn't challenged.
Meanwhile, results are still too close to call in Gore and Southland. 23-year-old Ben Bell is leading the Gore race by the smallest of margins, and less than 50 votes separate the top 3 candidates in Southland, with Rob Scott narrowly ahead. Both races will be decided by special votes, with results expected to be announced tomorrow. Across the South Today.
A royal disappointment for some and a Sunday to celebrate for many. King Charles's coronation date has been announced. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern confirming there will not be a public holiday to mark Charles III's ascension to the throne. May 6th has been chosen for the crowning ceremony at Westminster Abbey, which falls on a Sunday in New Zealand. The country held a one-off public holiday on September 26th to mark the passing of the 96-year-old Queen Elizabeth II. Otago Museum curators are often holding their various multi-legged insects, arachnids and invertebrates, but their latest acquisition is creating doubt. Cuddles, the furry Mexican red-knee tarantula, is the museum's newest inhabitant. While she may have a cute name and pretty fur, her centimetre-long fangs and ability to flick thousands of barbs towards her threat mean she's best viewed through glass.
I know that this species can be a little bit more aggressive and hair flicky than other species that we've held previously, but this one seems to be quite calm and nice.
Cuddles was sent to Dunedin from Canterbury Museum alongside 2 Brazilian black tarantulas. Red-knee tarantulas can live until they're around 20 years old. The Dunedin Arts Festival kicked off today, bringing in both local and international acts. There's a wide variety of performances set to play out over the course of the festival, with one local story standing out from the rest.
Last-minute rehearsals as the operatic show adds its finishing touches. The Dunedin Arts Festival kicks off tonight with a show tackling a local story hitting the stage. In fact, every performance in the festival features a connection to the city.
Well, the festival is for everyone. It's Dunedin's festival, and we've tried to reflect that in our programming to make sure that everyone is reflected in the shows that we're putting on.
The Strangest of Angels opera has a direct link to Dunedin, the show focusing on local author Janet Frame when she was admitted to Seacliff Psychiatric Hospital in 1945. Director Eleanor Bishop says the small cast of just 2 gives the performance an intimate feel, with a 15-piece orchestra scoring the opera.
What you feel in your body when you're listening to an orchestra coming at you and these amazing singers coming at you, it's so visceral.
The show is set to play over the next 2 nights at Mayfair Theatre, the rest of the festival continuing throughout the next couple of weeks. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Whai Yakane still to come on the South Today. A Cromwell working bee sees 10,000 young native trees planted along a lakeshore, and leopard seals make themselves right at home again on Dunedin beaches.
Every day the team at Gillian supports grieving families at their time of need, from answering your questions to organising a farewell that reflects the wishes of your loved one. We can help. Call Gillian's today.
Stock liquidation on now. My mate John's massively overstocked and urgently needs to clear furniture and beds now. 5,000 items at half price.
And my mate John.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Tēnā koe, welcome back. Members of the Cromwell community rolled up their sleeves and got their hands dirty recently. 10,000 native trees were planted on the shore of Lake Dunedin, all in the name of legacy.
Planting trees to future-proof the shores of Lake Dunedin. 10,000 native trees have been planted on the at times arid banks of the lake in an attempt to stem years of erosion. Last year, the Lake Dunedin Charitable Trust received just over $1 million through Land Information New Zealand's Jobs for Nature Fund to undertake landscape restoration over 4 years. More than 100 volunteers turned up to the planting, the largest event of its kind in the area. The planting part of a nationwide effort by conservation group Trees That Count.
This project's interesting in that it's really highly degraded land. To come back here in 10 years' time, we'll see transformational change. And in 100 years' time, there'll be native forest.
Lake Dunedin Charitable Trust Chairman Duncan Faulkner says the event was a true community effort.
There's been an awful lot of excuses over the years as to why improvements haven't been made, but essentially we're using this project as an example to show that it can be done.
Te Tapu o Tāne is a Māori charitable trust which was also involved.
The plants that used to grow here are the white plants that should be here, and we've sort of lost focus of that a little bit.
The project aims to restore native species and improve recreational access to the area. At Lake Dunedin, the South Today.
A leopard seal was spotted on St Clair Beach recently, but experts say there's no need to fear the animal. The start of October is peak season for leopard seals on Dunedin beaches. They park up on shore to sleep for a few hours at a time after they've had a feed. Experts say not to be scared of the seals, but to keep at least 10 metres away to be safe, with dog owners asked to keep their pets on a leash. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. The Canterbury Museum is getting a $25 million grant to strengthen against seismic events. Mayors, both new and old, have been welcomed in across the south, but Gore and Southland are still too close to call. And The Strangest of Angels opera debuts tonight, launching the start of the Dunedin Arts Festival. And now a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT, and we welcome the editor, Barry Stewart. Hello, Barry.
Hello, Hannah.
What can we expect in your paper tomorrow?
Well, the big news, of course, was the emissions scheme with the farmers. Groundswell New Zealand has reacted to that proposal, and they're calling it farming's nuclear moment. So, reaction from them. And of course, you mentioned earlier about the mayoral candidates. Well, they've been holding their breath since Saturday, of course, in the close run contests, but they may have to hold their breath a little bit longer if indeed there is a recount requested, and that's on the cards. So we'll wait and see how that develops. We're watching that closely. Exciting little story out at Brighton. It's probably possibly too young to remember, but the Brighton boat shed, where there used to be little boats that families and others would plough around in. Well, that's been purchased, and it's going to be back on track. So
fantastic.
It's next month, I understand. So that's exciting development in Brighton. And the victory of Jules Radich in the Dunedin mayoralty contest has been called a landscape. Well, was it? Well, Grant Miller, our council writer, has crunched the numbers, and the evidence of that is in the paper tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, we look forward to that full breakdown. Thank you, Barry.
Okay, thank you.
And time now for a look at the weather.
The South Today weather, proudly brought to you by MoreMap, the skin cancer detection specialists.
Looking at the situation, an anticyclone in the Southern Ocean slowly moves across the South Island over the next few days, meaning we'll feel a light easterly over the region. Heading to the top of the South Island, showers and easterlies up in Nelson tomorrow with a high of 14. Numbers in Greymouth look the same too, with cloud and light winds, while Christchurch will be wet and windy with 11 as the high. Travelling to South Canterbury and North Otago now, cloudy with nor'westerlies through here tomorrow. Ashburton and Iwamaru in the low teens with a high of 11, and up to 12 degrees in Timaru. Westwards now to the Central Lakes. Cloudy with very light winds again through here tomorrow. 14 degrees for Wanaka and Queenstown, with 13 in Alexandra. Heading further south now, well, fine with light winds and 13 degrees tomorrow in Balclutha and Gore, while the Catlins is in for a showery day with sour easterlies and a cooler high of 11 degrees. Now down to the deep south. Some cloud tonight in Invercargill, dropping to 6 degrees. More cloud and cold southerlies tomorrow, 11 the high, and into Friday, well, a fine and sunny day with light winds, up to 13 as the high before the last weekend of the school holidays. And lastly, heading to Dunedin. Drizzly and cloudy tonight and tomorrow with 8 degrees overnight before a 10-degree high tomorrow. Friday's looking fairly cloudy with breezy nor'easterlies picking up and not an overly warm day as we anticipate 11 as the high. And that's the news this Wednesday. For the latest news and videos from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again tomorrow. Ka kite popo.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.